I had no clue who these beings were, but they were eager to show me their spacecraft. Usually, when I get introduced to a new alien race, I astral travel to meet them on their planet, get the tour, and then maybe I'd be shown their UFOs. That is, if they have any. However, not this group. Upon my first introduction, I was immediately taken to a large mothership docked somewhere in the cosmos. This UFO was filled with water. I first observed the inhabitants floating inside through the expansive, seamless front window of the ship. And this front window curved outwards, which kind of reminded me of a fishbowl. Inside, the beings were effortlessly maneuvering around their impressive waterlogged craft. At this point in my galactic discovery journey, I had been fortunate to be invited on many different types of UFOs, although this was my first experience on an aquatic one. Then suddenly, in a matter of seconds, all the water was drained. The interior of the vessel was bone dry, with zero water dripping or any damage to any technology or blinking lights along the walls. How is this possible? I thought to myself. I was then led along a dim hallway that had a dark yellowish light bar barely illuminating the way. "Here's our science laboratory," they said, bursting with pride and excitement. I saw electrical plugs and other archaic technology that we commonly use on Earth. These beings are extremely interested in studying the embarrassingly basic equipment we use. I was assured that these ETs do not wish to harm anyone on Earth. They are just as fascinated with us on Earth and how we live as we would be with them. They were also studying human DNA. It appears the fact that our earthly bodies are so low density and non-responsive to stimuli in comparison to their bodies is intriguing. Therefore, it's a subject of investigation. It's important to note that no human bodies were being used for research purposes or forced to be unwilling subjects. They were examining DNA in strands of hair left behind, much like a crime scene investigator would. So let me introduce the Zaniahs, a benevolent and sensitive ET race that finds Earth to be an endlessly intriguing experimental planet, a place that they prefer to be observers and not the participants. And thanks for joining me. My name is Erin Lynn, and for the past several years, I've been introduced to many unknown galactic races through my work as an Akashic record researcher and galactic channel. Not only do I research this information I receive from the beings themselves in the Akashic record library, but I also will astral travel to these planets to directly interact with the alien species and explore their world firsthand. In this video, we're going to discuss a very well-respected alien race that is particularly active around our universe. While we have been introduced to a few aquatic ET species already in this series, today we're going to explore our first amphibious race. These beings live their lives both in water and on dry land. When I say amphibious race, I mean that these galactic beings can breathe just as easily in or out of the water. They have both dry land areas and water areas on their realm. And this is different than what we experience on Earth, as we too have dry land and water here. And yes, we also swim in our natural bodies of water and backyard pools, but we as a species cannot breathe while submerged in water, and nor do we spend half our lives there. That is the difference between us on Earth and a true amphibious race. I would not even categorize the Alphirkians as an amphibious race. The link to that episode is below. These amphibious beings are yet another species from the Virgo Constellation. The Bayer designation of their planet is Eta Virginis, although this group prefers to be known by their planet's Arabic name, which is Zaniah. And I've featured other galactic species from Virgo thus far and will be introduced to much more in the future. Zaniah is located in between two galactic civilizations I've already covered, Porrima and Zavijava. So if you haven't seen those videos yet, I recommend you also check them out. And for those who have already viewed those episodes, you may recall that I mentioned that that specific part of the Virgo constellation is dark with little to no sunlight. And I explained how the beings who live there adapt to low light environments. Planet Zaniah does have one massive dark orange sun looming over its watery surface. Their sunlight is not intense. And while this planet is in what I have previously referred to as the dark area of the Virgo constellation, when I breached the surface of their water world, I saw complete blackness above me, but an orange disk that looked like it was settling in the horizon. I was able to gaze right into it without hurting my eyes, as it did not give off much light. The sun on Zaniah takes over much of their horizon, but it's also quite dim. So their sun is designed to provide warmth and consciousness for their population, but very little actual sunlight. The Zaniahs do not need or enjoy bright lights. Instead, they prefer to use these artificial UV-like lights to provide them with whatever light they may need. In fact, their entire water area of their planet looks like a giant black light is shined on it. Zaniahs do take pride in how visually stunning their realm is, but there are vibrant rainbow-colored kelp forests that sway gently in the water and sparkling crystals embedded in the ground. But the environment is like an underwater blacklight painting come to life. Throughout the water floor, amongst their forests and on their UFOs are what look to be UV light box beds. The Zaniahs will periodically lay down, spreading out while on their backs for a time. And these UV beds provide their bodies with rest and healing. And these blacklight med beds are free and accessible for any Zaniah being to use whenever they feel they need to increase their life force energy, or chi. Well, they do lay on them, and it can be for any length of time, but typically it doesn't take long for them to get the desired outcome. And this UV pick-me-up is not usually a daily occurrence, maybe a few times per week, depending on the individual. And this UV-looking light provides them the benefits of sunlight without exposing themselves to bright sun, which can burn and irritate their very sensitive skin. An older Zaniah being may need to have more UV time than, say, a younger one. The Zaniahs are a ninth dimensional race. They've always been a benevolent force. Zaniahs are also yet another cobalt blue species in our universe. Their vibrantly colored skin is soft and smooth, not scaly or fish-like. They have no fins either. They also have some raised area on their skin that are a little bit darker blue in color. And Zaniah eyes are large and placed on the top of their heads, much like a frog would. But they have very sharp eyesight and can see very well in low light or pitch black conditions. And this ET species is a DNA cross with the Ankans and the well-known Arcturians. Even though their body shape resembles the Nophs, I am told there's no genetic overlap between those two species. They are about 3 feet or 91 centimeters tall in their natural state, but they have the ability to condense themselves to only 6 inches or 15 centimeters tall if they need to hide or get through a small area. And this full body shrinking is like an instantaneous retraction, like an octopus on Earth. Zaniah bodies are invertebrate. While they do have some structure to their bodies, it's like they're made of a cartilage and not stiff bones, as they can move and bend without joints. And their handless arms can wrap around something, much like an elephant trunk. So perhaps it is this lack of hard bone structure that allows them to morph their body size so effortlessly. I do like the Zaniahs and happen to think they are adorable. The most defining feature of the Zaniah species is that they are very sensitive to all stimuli, whether it be light, energetic, or physical. Bright lights especially seem to bother them, and they ensure all their environments are dim for their comfort. Their skin is the most sensitive part. However, the Zaniahs utilize this sensitivity as a gift rather than a hindrance. Zaniahs are serious and get-down-to-business types, and they do have analytical natures, and they like to break things down to their functioning parts. And while they insist that they also have fun on their planet, even though they take their work and missions very seriously. Zaniah beings are not as outwardly emotional as we are on Earth, and it's more like they can feel the emotional states energetically rather than express them externally or even through verbal communication. The abundant water on Zaniah is very clear and would be considered fresh water. However, the texture and feel of their water is different from any other kind of liquid found on Earth. While immersed in their seawater, it's refreshing and easy to swim through, but it's thicker and more viscous than the water that we're accustomed to. The feel of their water is almost like hand sanitizer. You know, that alcohol-based clear gel we use to wash our hands when we don't have access to water? Except Zaniah water has no alcohol in it, and it's a bit thinner than our hand sanitizer gel. While our earthy water is heavy and weighs approximately 8.34 pounds or 3.79 kilograms per gallon, their water is almost weightless. Yet I can swim in their water and then get out and be completely dry. It's a strange experience. Interestingly, I swam in that same kind of thick yet crystal clear water on a planet in Arcturus. With the Zaniahs being amphibious, they do need to spend a fair amount of their lifetime in this type of water. And they can breathe just as easily while in their realm's watery depths as they do on dry land. These beings do not need to go to the water's surface to breathe. In fact, they spend most of their time at the bottom of or floor of their water world. And the amount of time a being needs to be in the water varies for the individual. But in general, Zaniahs need to spend approximately 60% of their lives in the water, and the other 40% can be on dry land. And there seems to be a bit of a genetic component to how long a Zaniah can stay out of the water, with some family lines being more equipped to staying out of the water for longer. The Zaniah skin can dry out quickly when long periods of time are spent outside of water, and they will become physically uncomfortable, almost itchy. So also their lungs work differently when they are in and out of the water. And it can be more taxing on their respiratory systems to constantly breathe while on dry land. And for the other extreme, too much time in the water makes them complacent and weakens their bodies. So this is a galactic race that needs to spend ample time in both water and dry land to maintain their optimal body operation. The allocated dry areas on their realm are inside their planet or underground. The entire exterior of their world is entirely aquatic. So to transport themselves from the dry area to the water, there are elevator-like portals all over the realm where they can instantly and easily transport themselves from the dry inner world to their external watery location. So no water seeps into the dry underground areas through these portals. It's kept very separate. It is this duality of living environments that makes them adaptable despite their natural sensitivities. And these UV light med beds are present in the dry areas as well. The underground or dry land on Zaniah is very sparse and sterile looking. The lighting is very low and it seems like a lot of activity happens there. Perhaps that was where most of the work is done. But it's in sharp contrast to the beauty of their water areas. There are many UFOs, except for that giant mothership, are also kept or docked in the dry interior areas. The Zaniahs can float or swim easily in the water, but can also float just as quickly and effortlessly on land. They do not have legs or feet, so they kind of levitate about 6 inches or 15 centimeters above the ground. And there are dwellings where they spend their free time in both areas. Like we would consider like a main home and then a vacation home at the beach. I suppose they decide which location they wish to spend their time on an as-needed basis. To expand on that mothership that I was initially brought to and mentioned in the opening of this episode, that craft was large. It was teardrop-shaped and seemed to contain a small city inside. This large craft had many rooms and Zaniahs working there doing a myriad of tasks. And they took me on a tour and showed me how, within seconds, they can fill up their ship with this water and then drain it completely dry. The technology they use does not get damaged by the water. And the water can somehow be condensed to take up less physical space when put away on their spaceships in holding tanks. Even their fleet of smaller UFOs are also smooth, teardrop-shaped, and gray in color. The Zaniah mothership always stays off planet and serves as a meeting and docking point for the smaller ships. When their smaller crafts are not flying around on Galactic Federation of Light or scientific research missions, these ships are docked either at the mothership or underground on their own planet. So during my first visit, I was transported from the mothership by a smaller craft and then let off at the dry docking station inside their planet. The Zanian ships will occasionally fly close to Earth. However, the beings themselves cannot exist in our dense atmosphere and do not care to walk around here. Instead, they gather their materials for study by clandestinely sucking it up to their crafts while in the sky. So, can't find your hairdryer? It could possibly be on a Zanian teardrop ship in pieces. Zaniahs also have a special interest in protecting children. They do often work with the Simeks, an alien race that I covered in a previous video who is singularly focused on helping all children in our universe. Feel free to watch that episode if you haven't already. These ETs will often join in missions to help severely injured children on Earth to get them the high-tech physical healing and help that they may need, even taking them off-world for some time. The Zaniahs are a very service-oriented group. Therefore, I suppose we can forgive them for stealing our hairdryers and electrical plugs for science. Lastly, the Zaniahs wanted me to mention that family togetherness is important to them. Their family structures are like ours, in which the mother and father live in the home with their children. And since they are a species that's particularly fond of children, a Zanian family may have many offspring and grow to be quite large over time. They feel that the importance of familial bonds within our species and theirs is something that we both can connect with. However, they recognize that our earthly family structures have been intentionally and systematically dismantled by those who wish to control our planet. The Zaniahs want to remind us on Earth that family closeness must become a priority again for us as a species. Once that happens, the humans will gain strength against evil and ascend. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Kindly let me know in the comments what you think about this universally active amphibious galactic race. And what do you make of their extreme sensitivity and need for lots of time in their unusual water? I had one Akashic record reading client with Zanian origins describe them visiting her before in visions. Is this race familiar to anyone else watching in this video? Any ET groups mentioned here that I've made videos about before will be linked in the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, kindly like and subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and watch my other videos highlighting other unknown galactic races in the universe. And should you want to have your Akashic record read by me, the link to the website is below. In the meantime, I love you all, and welcome to a higher dimension.